So that's an important issue. But Santee Cooper, Santee Cooper, the state-owned public utility, has $6.8 billion debt. A lot of that from that nuclear project that went they abandoned with SC&G back in July 31st of 2017. It's been that long. And the General Assembly has made a decision what to do with Santee Cooper. We are advocating that it be sold to a investor-owned utility. There was a good proposal from investor-owned utility to buy it. They would remove all that debt off the back of the ratepayer. They would have reduced the rates by 18% automatically, and they would have really improved the circumstances of the ratepayers of Santee Cooper. We do know there was a class action settlement a couple weeks ago of Santee Cooper ratepayers, and as a result of that settlement, all the money basically that they had paid in over the years for that nuclear debacle up in Fairfield County, they will accrue back over a 2-year period, and that's good. They've also agreed to reduce their rates by 8%. That's good. But it pales in comparison to the 18% that was proposed by this private investor-owned utility that they were going to do. And remove, but there's no offer to remove the debt. The debt still is Santee Cooper ratepayers. They have to pay this over time. There's no other way around it. So unless a private company comes in and erases that debt, the Santee Cooper ratepayer will eventually pay it, and we are opposed to that. We were opposed to SC&G ratepayers paying off their $5 billion nuclear debt, and we wanted to claw back every penny that they had. Those ratepayers had paid SC&G for since 2009. A lot of that was successful, but Santee Cooper, we want the same thing. We want the ratepayers not to have to pay any of that nuclear debt that they have, billions of dollars. And it needs to go to a private, investor-owned utility. The state does not need to be in the electric producing business. It just doesn't need to be there. If we have a viable alternative with a good track record of using renewable resources, renewable energy, which this one vendor did who wanted to buy Santee Cooper, the state needs to get out of that business. This isn't 1930s anymore. So we are advocating that let's do what's best for the ratepayer. Let's go ahead and get rid of all that debt. Let's reduce the rates even more if that investor-owned utility is going to make another offer, which I think they will. Santee Cooper just needs to be turned over to a investor-owned utility. That's it. I think we will get better management. They will be better because this investor-owned utility will cut costs that they can cut because they want to make a profit. You don't make a profit necessarily by raising rates. You cut your costs, and one way you cut your costs is get out of the coal business. The most expensive way of generating electricity is coal. Yet Santee Cooper is still hanging on to 2 coal plants, while the rest of the investor-owned utility world is retiring them quickly as they can. Not Santee Cooper. They like their coal plant. Don't know why, but they have no motivation over the years to retire those coal plants, to get into solar energy and natural gas. They just had no incentive because, well, they didn't have anybody looking over their shoulders. The board of directors made their own decisions, and we don't got shareholders clamoring for us to reduce our costs. So that's what the problem is. We got a state agency running the show for a utility providing electricity to a third of South Carolina. That's crazy,
It is, and they're not accountable to anyone.
We need to get out of that.
And for full transparency, the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce, we are also for the sale of Santee Cooper for the reasons that you just cited. We really, ultimately, the ratepayers will be paying that debt, which means your rates are going to go up. So this brief lull with the settlement and the accruing and pulling that money back, that's going to disappear too, because they have to get rid of that debt to be feasible. it's going to be that debt is an albatross around their neck, even if they had the will to really push forward with green renewable energy. That debt is an albatross around the neck of Santee Cooper, really preventing them to make a real investment in green renewable energy. That is the future. And from day one, the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce, we have been about advocating for a better environment, advocating for careers and business opportunities in green renewable energy, and addressing climate change. Santee Cooper cannot check off any of those boxes. They're dragging their feet on the coal. You are correct that coal plants are expensive. They're expensive not only financially, they're expensive because of the environment, the damage that's being done to the environment. And just recently, I had the Sierra Club on. They were on to talk about their suit against DHEC, but it involved the Wynyard generating station, the coal generating station here in Georgetown County, where I live, and 2 other locations. Well, 3 total, 2 of which are owned by Santee Cooper. And the one in Georgetown has been polluting the Sanford River, which is literally maybe a 5-minute walk from my house, for years. We can no longer fish. Well, we could fish in the Sanford River, but you can only eat once a week. And I remember when I was younger, we would go crabbing in the Sanford River. We would go fishing in the Sanford River. And I haven't been doing that for years because it's polluted. And one of the main polluters is that coal generating plant, the Wynyard generating station here in Georgia. It literally has just destroyed that river. So coal is just very expensive financially and regarding the environment.
Right.
And
And
it really has impacted the Gullah community negatively.
let me just say also, I hadn't mentioned our we are big promoters of renewable energy for the reason of the climate change that you talked about. And the way we get to that is the rising seas. We've been involved in the issue of trying to raise public awareness on sea level rise. From 2012, 2013, we've been involved in this. We've had projects along the coast. We've worked with the city of Beaufort to develop a plan for trying to be more resilient to up to a 3-foot sea level rise. We worked with talked to communities up and down the coast in Charleston and up your way. So fortunately, people now understand the seas are rising, and they're rising because of climate change. They're rising because of all that carbon that we're putting into the air from the coal plants and from cars and everything else that goes on. And our coastal tourism is in trouble because of that. Certainly, look at Charleston. Charleston's in big trouble. They're talking about a multi-billion-dollar project to put a fence around Charleston to protect it from hurricanes. But it's really in danger down there, and all along our coast. So anything that threatens tourism, which is essentially in South Carolina and along the whole Atlantic coast, a small business industry, we take seriously, and we have to work against it. And certainly climate change is one of those things.
It is.